Hey guys, tonight we drift out to a blurry Mongolian dawn, where the sky is the color of half-awake grapefruit juice, and the grasslands stretch so wide you feel your brain buffering. You're standing outside a low-felt yurt, bare toes and chilly turf, watching your breath mix with mist like you're exhaling secret plot twists. The horizon is just starting to glow, and 1,000 invisible larks are warming up their squeaky gate songs. In a couple of minutes, the entire steppe is going to flood with peaches and cream light, and honestly, you probably won't survive this gentle magnificence without a snack dot, so before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing the global map of sleepy wanderers popping up like fireflies. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together, warm. Air sighs out of the tent flap as you duck inside, brushing past a dangling strip of dyed wool tassels that tickle your forehead like a practical joke from the ancestors. Inside, the yurtik air, as locals insist you call it with a wink, is still sleepy. A single coal in the iron hearth glows like a rogue ember that missed curfew. You crouch and feed it a sliver of dried dung, the so-called steppe broquette. Joke number 1. You have never felt more bourgeois than when your fuel source literally smells like yesterday's pasture gossip. The walls are lattice wood, lashed together with rawhide and covered by thick layers of sheep's felt that trap. The night's heat. Mainstream fact drop. These portable homes have barely changed since at least the 6th century, when Turkic nomads wrote runic inscriptions bragging about how quickly they could collapse and repitch them between campaigns. Above you, the smoke. Hole called the tunnel frames a coin of dawn sky. Through it, you can see Venus reluctantly clocking out from her night shift. You reach for the leather bucket hanging from a tripod breakfast in suspense. Its contents: arag, the famed fermented. Murray's milk, a drink so fizzy it can moonlight as farm-fresh kombucha. You swirl it, listening to bubbles hiss like distant gossip about your bedhead, then lift the wooden dipper. First sip, bright, sour, a hint of carbonation that tickles your nose. Quirky tidbit time. Legend says Genghis Khan ordered barrels of arag delivered to the front lines because, according to one Persian chronicler, it made warriors quick to laugh and slow to ale. Whether that's medicinal science or medieval marketing, you decide. It definitely beats energy drinks named after aggressive animals. Outside, hooves thud in the half-light as the herders guide Maris in for morning milking. You step out again, catching a waft of cold grass and horsehide. Each Mari is hobbled lightly so she doesn't wander. A foal is allowed to nurse for a moment to let the milk drop, then gently shooed. You kneel, thumb and forefinger learning the rhythm. Squeeze, release. Squeeze, release into a wooden pail already frothing with life. Historians still argue whether the Nomads adopted millet cultivation from Chinese farmers or developed it independently. But everyone agrees Murray milking is absolutely their own jam. Standing, you stretch your back, hearing joints pop like little castanets. The sun finally peaks above the horizon, painting the horses cinnamon orange and lighting the dew on your sleeves. A teenage herder laughs at your city kit grimace. The raw morning milk is around body temperature, which feels oddly intimate, like shaking hands with the animal's biography. Joke number 2. You mentally award yourself the utterly brave. Badge and vow never to say that pun aloud. Dot inside again. The hearth is ready. You shovel smoldering dung into a ring, nestle a shoddy iron pot, and pour in a ladle of last night's saved milk to scald. The heat releases a buttery aroma that blends with wood smoke, turning the yurt into the world's coziest cheesecake factory. A spoonful of millet follows, rattling like little meteors. By the way, mainstream fact number 2, archaeological digs. At sites like Avraga have revealed charred millet grains dating to the Mongol Empire's height. Proof that what you're cooking is truly ancestral oatmeal. As the porridge thickens, you sprinkle a pinch of rock salt. Out here, salt slabs traveled hundreds of miles from Siberian lakes, traded piece by piece like edible currency. Another quiet historical footnote links in. Mongol troops were once paid partially in salt bricks. Imagine direct deposit seasoning. You stir, letting steam cloud your lashes, then fold a strip of dried mutton fat across the surface. It melts, with a sizzle releasing a smell that could sell out stadiums if someone bottled it. While you wait, you pat the felt wall, feeling its springy resilience. Remember this tactile grace. Later, we'll see how the same felt becomes a drumhead for shamanic rituals. But that's for another dawn. For now, you pour yourself a fresh dip of arag. Mix in a teaspoon of local wild honey, a luxury the steppe rarely affords, and toast silently to the lark still refusing to hit its high note outside. Joke number 3. You consider leaving. Yelp feedback for the bird. Ambience great, service slow. Nearby, a family elder unrolls a tiny cloth bundle containing weathered prayer beads and murmurs. A quick blessing over the simmering food. Even breakfast is diplomacy with the spirits. Generosity to invisible neighbors keeps bad winds in check. You bow your head, not entirely sure which deity covers. Please don't curdle. But it can't hurt. Dawn, at last, bursts full force. Light slants through the open door, setting dust motes afloat like lazy fireflies. The elder ladles out porridge into shallow wooden bowls, handing one to you. First bite, nutty, smoky, a whisper of barnyard funk from that melted fat, all mellowed by the honey. You eat slowly, letting each spoonful linger on your tongue until your shoulders unclench. Outside, the herd begins to drift toward distant grazing meadows, tails flicking in slow-motion synchrony, and there you are, belly warming, lungs full of high-altitude oxygen, and mind marveling at how something as simple as fermented milk and millet can feel like a royal banquet when the horizon stretches to infinity. Yet beneath this calm lies the practical genius of survival, hoardable shelters, preservable calories, and a social rhythm tuned to hoofbeats rather than clocks. Your phone alarm buzzes in your pocket, wildly irrelevant. You silence it, pocket reality for later, and scrape the last sticky grains from the bowl, considering whether future you can import this breakfast routine back home. The elder passes. You the arag bucket for one last communal sip, clockwise as etiquette demands. Foam kisses your upper lip. You wipe it with the back of your sleeve and grin. Somewhere in this fizz, you taste a millennium of conquests, migrations, and secret jokes shared across campfires exactly like this one. The horizon beckons, but we're not saddling up just yet. The story of a Mongol morning is only warming. Up like that stubborn coal beginning to glow again in the hearth's heart. You wipe the last flecks of porridge from your wooden spoon, slip it into your belt like a tiny culinary saber, and step outside where the air still tastes faintly of frost and renegade honey. The sun has hoisted itself a handspan above the grass sea, but the light remains pale enough that every silhouette looks softly penciled in. A herder whistles a rising-falling trail, half lullaby, half alarm clock, and a string of mares ambles toward the makeshift corral. You fall in alongside, instantly aware of how much taller horses feel when you're not wearing the armor of urban distractions. Blanket-backed foals totter behind their mothers, legs knobby as unfinished scaffolding. Their breath streams out in silver ribbons, and you almost expect them to tie those ribbons around your wrists like party favors. Joke number 1. You briefly wonder if corporate team-building retreats would improve if participants had to chase baby horses before the coffee break. Probably. A wiry woman in a fur-trimmed deal hands you a short, thick rope. She gestures a quick loop, a half hitch, and soon you're securing the Mari's hind leg to her front, creating a gentle hobble. Mainstream fact drop. Modern ethnographies note this exact knot appears in 13th century illustrations from the secret history of the Mongols, meaning you're reenacting a scene older than most world capitals. The Mare flicks an ear, unimpressed by your historical cosplay, but she settles as her foal nuzzles in for that first reassuring sip. Now comes the choreography. You crouch on a low three-legged stool barely wider than a frisbee, nomadic ergonomic. Design, your host jokes, and slide the wooden pail underneath. Your thumb and forefinger pinch high, sliding down in a smooth squeeze, and warm milk jets against the pail's rim. Drumming a rhythm you start to follow like a percussionist at a very intimate concert. To keep the flow steady, you sing not words, just a humming scale that vibrates in your chest and, according to local superstition, relaxes the animal. Quirky tidbit time. Some clans swear that switching to minor keys turns the milk sour, so everyone sticks to cheery melodies even. On Grandpa Cluck winter mornings, foam accumulates, shimmering mother of pearl in the early light. A teenage herder dips 2 fingers, flicks the froth onto the earth, an offering to the spirits of pasture and sky. Historians still argue whether these micro-libations originate in shamanic animism or were folded into Tingri worship later on. But either way, the ground receives its sip before any human lips do. Another mare queues up, and you swap stools with the ease of a barista during rush hour, your muscles settling into a satisfying, repetitive burn. Between milkings, you watch the buckets travel to a larger vat, an upright tree trunk hollowed out into a churn. Its inside is stained ivory from decades of lacto-love, and it smells faintly like a yogurt shop that accidentally became spiritual. A teenage boy plunges a paddle up and down a strict 500-stroke routine. He counts under his breath, and with every 50th plunge, he rotates 30 degrees to honor cardinal directions. You just discovered the Steppe equivalent of CrossFit. Joke number 2. Somewhere, a Silicon Valley app developer is already planning yak milk Peloton. A gray-bearded elder taps the churn's rim, scoops a ladle into a shallow bowl, and passes it to you. This is Teksh raw milk before fermentation, sweet, grassy, and light as a cloud that's been its gap year backpacking. You sip, remembering the fizzier airag from section 1, appreciating how breakfast here is really a spectrum rather than a single dish. It's as if the same ingredient keeps showing up in different disguises, like an actor with an unlimited wardrobe. Budget. You glance around and spot the reuse station. Funnels carved from goat horn, cheesecloth woven of horsehair, and most whimsical of all, a bundle of thin willow switches tied like a giant paintbrush. The switches whip the milk to encourage fermentation bubbles. They also double as correctional devices for unruly children, or some claim, husbands who question recipe ratios. Anthropologists keep taking notes. Couples therapists are still catching up. By late morning, the ambient soundtrack has shifted from hush-hush whispers to clinks of metal buckles as saddles are checked. Yet the Mari milking persists, each bucket filled a tiny victory over the day's caloric uncertainty. Mainstream fact number 2. A healthy steppe Mari can produce nearly 2 gallons of milk per day, but only for a brief few months, which makes every drop in that pail feel like borrowed time. Imagine your fridge working strictly seasonal hours. Good luck with midnight cereal. As you finish another mare, she tosses her head and nearly smacks your nose. Your reflexes save you, but joke number 3 bubbles up. If a horse high-fives your face on the step, does it count as a blessing or veterinary deductible? Either way, you're awake now. During a lull, the matriarch invites you to inspect the family's prized wooden dipper. Its handle is carved into a coiling wolf, polished dark by generations of thumbs. She explains, half proud, half sheepish, that the dipper's name is Old Red Tongue. And yes, the utensil gets addressed before guests do. Quirky indeed, but in a culture where objects travel as much as people, personality keeps them from wandering off with the next caravan dot. You help carry 2 brimming buckets back toward the gare. The felt wall you patted earlier now smells faintly of sun-warmed lanolin, and the hearth coal glows a deeper orange. The elder pours a measured splash of today's haul into yesterday's ferment, trusting natural yeast clinging to the vat walls. Historians still argue whether this reliable fermentation hints at a unique steppe microbe or just centuries of seasoning. Microbiologists are currently staging the tiniest turf war imaginable. Someone slaps a leathery drumhead time to whip. The air egg for dinner and rhythm echoes beyond the horizon. The sound stitches your memory to the moment, like bookmarking a scene in a vast, windswept novel. You realize the Mari milking ritual isn't just food prep, it's the morning's pulse. The way community calibrates its collective heartbeat before scattering on separate tasks. As you set your empty pail upside down to dry, a lanky youth nudges you, nods at the sky. A mongrel kite circles overhead, hoping for stray curds. Its shadow ripples over the grass as though someone is erasing streaks with a charcoal stick. You squint, noticing the same lark from earlier. Yes, still behind on its set list, perched on a saddle horn. Somewhere in the universe, your Yelp review reaches its target because the bird springs into a crystal trill, perfectly on key. Redemption arc complete. Bellies growl, campfires flare, and the first whispers of noon chase the morning chill away. Yet the gentle squeeze, the full snuffle, the splashing froth, they linger in your mind like low-tempo lullabies, promising that no matter how far or fast these people ride, dawn will always tether them back to the pail, the stool, and the song. You flex your hands, a touch sore, and smile. Tomorrow, your city keyboard will feel ridiculously light after wrestling 1,200-pound breakfast machines by hand. Efficiency comes in many costumes. Today it wears a shaggy mane and the patience of grass. You shoulder the last sloshing bucket into the gare, and the familiar tang of half-fermented milk greets you like a mischievous cousin hugging a little too hard. Someone replenished the fire. Blue-orange flames lick at the iron hearth, and the air pulses between cool morning leftovers and toasty dairy sauna. In the center stands the sacred vessel, a towering wooden vat banded with bronze rings, its belly rounded like a ship's hull, its rim polished silk smooth by 10,000 ladles. You approach, palms tingling, because this is where raw promise turns into the step's signature breakfast buzz. The matriarch lifts the lid with both hands creak. Sigh release, and a warm cloud rolls out, smelling of yogurt, green grass, and a wink of cider. Bubble clusters pop along the surface, each tiny explosion a drummer practicing paradiddles. Joke number 1, you half expect to hear a teasus hi-hat and watch the vat ask if you take requests. You stir gently with a paddle carved from elm. The foam thickens, clinging to the wood like playful ghosts. Mainstream fact drop. A rag clocks in at roughly 2 to 3% alcohol, enough to loosen tongues but not derail horseback archery. Essential when your commute involves galloping at 40 kilometers per hour while balancing a bow. Modern food scientists confirm the brew hosts a cocktail of lactobacillus and yeast strains that would make any probiotic drink proud. Yet out here, nobody drops Latin names. They just call it good, or if a batch fails, horse vinegar, and yes, you politely pretend to prefer the former. The vat walls hum from inside vibrations. You swear you can feel a heartbeat through the paddle. Quirky tidbit time. Some clans embed a small river stone at the bottom, claiming its cold memory keeps fermentation lively. Children sneak in to knock on the staves, listening for the stone's echo like it's a seashell of the grasslands. You lean closer, plop. A bubble bursts, sending a fleck onto your cheek. Congratulations, you're wearing the most niche Face mask on earth dot to oxygenate the brew. You lift the paddle high, arc it down, and repeat, setting up a mesmerizing seesaw. Foam climbs and swirls, almost sculptural, before melting back in. Historians still argue whether these oxygenating strokes came from ancient Turkic dairy techniques or were refined under the Mongol Empire's culinary innovation boom. Either way, your arms are discovering new muscle groups that gym brochures never mention. A teenage cousin counts 50 strokes aloud, turns, and hands you a hefty ladle, the size of a soup bowl with delusions of grandeur. First pour is ceremonial. The matriarch tips the ladle toward the hearth, letting a silver stream hiss onto the coals. Steam blooms, and she mutters a blessing to the hearth spirit. Second pour belongs to elders. Third is yours. You raise the ladle, breathing in that sour sweet perfume, and sip. Tiny bubbles tickle your upper palate. Bright acidity cuts through the lingering fat from breakfast porridge, and a flutter of warmth slides down your throat to settle like a sleepy cat in your chest. Somewhere outside, a stallion nickers, maybe jealous it doesn't get a taste. You hand the ladle to a boy who immediately tries to chug nope. A sharp TSK from grandma freezes him mid-gulp. Etiquette demands small sips, clockwise passing, and a silent acknowledgement that everything here is borrowed from the herd. Joke number 2. Somewhere, a college fraternity just blacked out in sympathetic embarrassment. Work continues. Someone muffs curds from yesterday's batch, soft, moist, destined to dry into bone weight a roll under the sun. Each curd plops onto a reed tray, arranging itself like chubby dominoes. You recall the callback. Later, those sun-hardened pebbles will test your dental plan in Section 5. So maybe start stretching their jaw now. A lanky uncle demonstrates the churning song, a lilting pentatonic melody punctuated by guttural glides that make your throat feel like a gravel road. According to him, the right tune entices benevolent spirits to feast on the bad microbes, leaving only the good. Mainstream fact number 2. Ethnomusicologists recording in Arkhangelsk province cataloged more than 40 distinct dairy songs, each tied to a clan or valia Spotify playlist for fermentation. If you will, you notice varnish repairs where resin fills an old crack in the vat. Historians still argue whether steppe coopers sealed these vessels with pine pitch traded from Siberia or with locally sourced sheep tallow mixed with charcoal dust. The debate spills across archaeological journals like a splatter of ink nobody wants to wipe. Meanwhile, the vat does fine with whichever sticky potion it received. Practicality 1, academic fistfight 0, asterisk. Bubble rhythm slows, cue the tasting round. Everyone clusters with bowls, wood, or horn, never metal, because tasting should involve warmth, not tinny aftershocks. You dip, swirl, sniff. The surface reflects the roof ring, and for a moment you see the open sky framed in froth, a liquid telescope to clouds you haven't noticed since stepping indoors. Joke number 3. You consider bottling this scene as OD horse latte for urban wellness stores. Fragrance notes, freedom, grass, and a hint of existential vertigo. The elder claps once. Business time. Half the vat will travel today with traders heading toward Caravan Junction. You help ladle foaming arag into leather bags cooker cured in smoke so they breathe just enough to keep vermin alive. A full kukor weighs as much as a boisterous toddler. Hoisting one over your shoulder, you wobble, regaining balance, thanks to the matriarch's amused grip on your elbow. She chuckles and calls you city goat, a title both affectionate and, let's be honest, accurate. Outside, pack horses snort as the arag bags are lashed beside bundles of wool and fist-sized nuggets of rock salt. You tie a double knot, slide palm down the rope to test tension, and feel a small splash soak your sleeve, first casualty of travel. The herder shrugs. A little spill appeases road spirits. Somewhere, paved highways silently pout at how rarely drivers honor them with dairy sacrifices. Back inside, only a quarter of the vat remains. That portion will age another day, reaching a sharper tang beloved by elders who swear it bites back just right. You skim foamy overflow into your bowl, settle cross-legged by the hearth, and savor slow sips while watching spark flecks dance up the chimney hole toward oblivion. The hush after the bustle feels like someone hit noise cancel on reality. You. Think about fermentation as philosophy, letting friendly chaos rewrite raw materials into something more complex, more communal. On the steppe, nothing stays static. Horses roam, seasons swing, empires rise and dissolve, yet inside a wooden vat, microscopic revolutions hum, predictable as sunrise. Maybe that's why the taste comforts even hardened warriors. It tells them change can be delicious. Outside, the kite from earlier lands near a meat scrap, claiming its tip for services rendered. You hear excited shouts. The traders are mounting up. With one last gulp, you set the empty bowl down, press your palm to the V8's warm flank in silent thanks, and step toward the doorway. Noon glare floods in, painting your boots gold. Eric buzz thrums gently in your veins, a soft drum beat. For whatever the afternoon decides to write across the endless page of the grasslands, you clatter out of camp after the traders. Not to join their caravan, that road bends west toward silken suspicion, but to chase the tiramisu-colored horizon. For a few lazy miles, mid-afternoon light shivers on the grass, and every blade flashes like a flipped coin. Your borrowed pony chews the Eric buzz right out of your bones with its rhythmic jog. A portable massage chair that occasionally snorts in your ear just to remind you who's steering whom. An hour later, the herd slows at a ribbon of river so clear it looks digitally edited. The water is swift, sparkling, and ridiculously inviting. But you remember Section 1's reality check. You probably wouldn't survive a polar plunge bath. Instead, you dismount, wade calf deep, and let icy currents bite your shins while you scout for stone smooth, egg-sized, dense. These will be your traveling STOVETOP mainstream fact drop, steppe nomads perfected, boudog, and korkog. Dishes where meat cooks inside its own hide via searing river rocks. Chronicler Giovanni described a similar method in 1256 when he trailed Mongol troops to Persia. Today you're riffing on that tech, but with humble millet instead of a whole goat. Call it the vegan remix nobody asked for. You haul 5 rocks to shore and nestle them in a fire pit the herders have already scraped into the sand. Dry driftwood snaps, sparks, and soon the rocks glow tiger-striped red. While they heat, you spoon a fistful of millet from a leather pouch into what looks like a deflated basketball, actually a goatskin bag, scrubbed and smoked until it's more nonstick than your city wok. Quirky tidbit time. Some families name their cooking skins. This one bears faint charcoal letters spelling Nergui, which literally means no name. Mongol humor is 50% pragmatism, 50% cosmic shrug. You pat Nergui's belly, whispering that it's about to earn hazard pay. Now the rock ballet. Using iron tongs that could double as minimalist sculpture, you lift the first glowing stone, slide it into the bag, and hear an angry hiss as steam billows out the neck. Stone 2, 3, 4 each entry, a sizzling drumbeat. You cinch the opening with a rawhide thong and shake the skin like a maraca possessed by Gordon Ramsay. Joke number 1. Congratulations, you've invented the world's least sanitary cocktail shaker. Millet rattles, water sloshes, and you can practically smell the grains surrendering their starch to the molten geology inside. Historians still argue whether this rock-and-skin porridge drifted east from Turkic tribes along the Irtysh River or blossomed locally once metal cauldrons became campaign loot. Either way, it solves the eternal nomad riddle, how to simmer supper. When your kitchen ride's behind you, While Milky does the heavy lifting, you prepare flavor boosters. A pouch of rendered sheep fat, the texture of cold candle wax, goes in first. It will melt down into silky calories your Fitbit can't comprehend. Next, a pinch of crushed juniper leaves aromatics, slightly medicinal and excellent mosquito repellent. Finally, 2 raisins filched from the caravan's trade sack, just enough to make future you wonder if you hallucinated them. You set the bulging skin upright in a nest of wet sand, pointy end up, and let it burble. Time to multitask. The river offers free dishwater. Say you rinse yesterday's wooden bowls, watch said swirl downstream, and daydream about your yelp-shamed lark. Somewhere out there, it's plotting a comeback album. Heat aromas drift over, nutty, grassy, with a toasty edge like popcorn that attended finishing school. You give Nergui a cautious jiggle. The rocks inside clunk like polite boulders at a tea party, meaning the porridge thickened to a respectable pudding. Joke number 2. Quick mental image Michelin inspectors on horseback, clipping stars to goat skins and arguing if burnt hair counts as smoky nuance. Moment of truth. You loosen the thong, let steam gush skyward in a geyser that could coffee steam an entire hipster cafe's milk inventory. One by one, you fish out the stones with those iron tongs and dunk them straight into the river, where they flare hiss like dragons denied dessert. Each hiss is a tiny exorcism, carrying away any lingering goat musk dot inside the bag. The millet has swollen into golden pearls, suspended in a glossy broth streaked with fat. You ladle a scoop into your bowl careful, it strings like melted cheese. Thanks to starch chains coaxed by rock heat. First taste, creamy with a smoky back note, juniper whispers of forests you won't see for 300 miles, and a surprise pop of raisin sweetness right when your palate gets comfortable. You hum approval, remembering your Section 2 milking song. Apparently, it doubles as a tasting soundtrack. Mainstream fact number 2, millet isn't just filler. Its drought tolerance kept nomad populations fed through brutal steppe dry spells that knocked wheat-growing neighbors flat. Chinese records from the Tang dynasty even note tribute convoys carrying yellow seeds of the North Wind people. Likely these very grains cushioning your stomach now. A herder squats beside you, dips his spoon, nods gravely. That's the Nomad Michelin nod and sprinkles a pinch of rock salt from a tiny horn. He jokes that salt sharpens arrows. You suspect it mainly sharpens appetite. Together you eat in companionable slurps, listening to water flick rocks and ravens gossip. Overhead, quirky callback. Remember those foam flick libations? Here too, you honor unseen diners. After 3 bites, you flick a morsel of porridge onto the embers where it crackles like static. The herder murmurs and you catch only the word. Each mother. Sky mother? Earth mother? Maybe both. Either way, the smell is delicious enough that a passing dog pauses mid-trot, hoping the ritual involves leftovers. Seconds glide into minutes. Shadows lengthen, painting the grass in zebra stripes. Your spoon scrapes bottom stone-heated porridge. Disappears faster than phone battery on airplane mode. You tie the empty skin loosely and wedge it near the coals so the residual warmth dries it. For tomorrow's breakfast encore dot, another round of jokes surfaces as everyone debates whose turn it is to scrub the goat skin interior. Joke number 3. You volunteer your least favorite ex as tribute, earning a chorus of snorts. Instead, you fetch sand, swirl it inside like gritty soap, and admire how stone-polished hide now gleams moonlight pale. Sustainable dishwashing at its finest. Belly full, you lounge against a sun-bleached log. The pony grazes nearby, flicking flies with a tail that could pass for a metronome, marking 60 BPM ideal nap tempo. Warm satisfaction seeps through your limbs, and you notice the subtle stimulant effect of airag has slipped into a mellow equilibrium with millet carbs. This, you decide, is the Nomads version of the 3 p.m. office slump, except nobody emails you, circling back. Across the fire, the matriarch threads fresh sinew into a broken bridle. Sparks leap, catching highlights in her silver-streaked hair. She's humming that same churning tune under her breath. Apparently, it moonlights as a sewing anthem. Multifunctionality rules everything out here, from songs to stones to stomachs. You pocket one of the cooled river rocks, smooth as river polish soap, a tactile souvenir of dinner. Some writers believe such stones absorb the day's luck and, when tucked under a pillow, leak it back as pleasant dreams. Historians still argue whether this belief predates Buddhism's arrival or grafted onto it, but you're too busy imagining Tisei's face when they scan your luggage. Worth it. Dusk tiptoes and wearing lavender slippers. The river whispers louder as temperatures dip, and the smell of cooling embers mingles with distant horse sweat. You stretch, feeling pleasantly weighted, an hourglass whose sand has settled in the bottom bulb. Time to pack, remount, and follow the herd to tonight's grazing site. But that's another rhythm. For now, the stone-heated porridge sits warm in your memory, a glowing coal you can reach for when modern life feels microwave quick and flavor thin. You rise, sling no name over your shoulder, and dip your fingers in the river, letting icy currents seal the meal with a final, bracing handshake. The pony lifts its head, as if to say, intermission's over. You nod, sway into the saddle, and feel the landscape expand again endless, indifferent and quietly rooting for you to lose track of time in the best way possible. Dusk fades to deep velvet by the time you nose your pony into the new camp. A modest crescent of gares pitched where the grass fattens beside a sheltered bluff. Lanterns glow inside like captive fireflies, and somewhere a pan flute tries to outcroon the wind. You slide from the saddle thighs wobbly, brain fizzing with Arag afterglow and inhale an aroma both familiar and completely unexpected. Sun-baked dairy with a tongue that prickles your nostrils. It's as if a wheel of parmesan eloped with a salt lick and decided to honeymoon on the open prairie. Welcome to the realm of dried curds, or arul. A teenage girl beckons you to a low rack built of willow wands. Hundreds of small chalk white nuggets sit in neat rows, catching moonlight like rows of miniature pyramids. You tap one. It clinks against its neighbor with the confidence of a ceramic tile. Joke number one, clearly. Someone mistook cheese board for cheese brick. Patio. Mainstream fact drop, Arul isn't merely road snack. It was strategic fuel for imperial couriers galloping the Yam system's relay stations. Contemporary Persian historian Rashid al-Din recorded messengers carrying hard milk stones that could be nibbled on the run, no campfire required. Calorie-dense, protein-packed, zero refrigeration, basically the medieval Cliff Bar. Minus marketing departments. Your hostess hands you a hammer-sized piece, edges worn smooth by countless tumbles and saddle pouches. She calls it grandfather curd, aged 4 summers. You raise it to your nose-dry hay, faint buttermilk, a ghost of the Mare who donated the original milk. You try a nibble. The shard resists like porcelain, then fractures with a satisfying snap, dissolving into an explosion of creamy sour and pleasant chalk that pulls every ounce of moisture from your mouth. Reminder, keep your Arag thermos nearby for emergency hydration. Quirky tidbit time. Children use misshapen curds as building blocks, clacking them together to create on-the-fly jigsaw puzzles. Toddlers also knob them as teething toys, effectively. Pacified by calcium. Pediatric dentistry, step edition. While you crunch, a lanky uncle gestures at freshly stretched cheesecloth bundles hanging from a yoke across 2 steaks. Warm whey still drips into a shallow trough, horses stepping carefully around it for fear of slippery embarrassment. The curds inside are yesterday's harvest from that same Arag vat you paddled in Section 3. They were heated gently, strained, then pressed under a flat stone, yes. The multitasking river rock from Section 4 has found a new gig as a cheese press. Efficiency never sleeps out here. You kneel to untie a bundle. When the cloth peels back, the curd gleams like firm tofu, springy under your thumb. You break it into marble-sized lumps, rolling each between palm and reed mat until glossy. The matriarch instructs you to make shapes crescent moons for journeying warriors, star points for new babies, tiny spirals if you're flirting. You choose spirals. She cackles, calls you bold. Joke number 2. Congratulations. You just sent dairy emojis into the universe. Curds arranged. You carry the reed tray to a low turf wall, propping it so moonbeams kiss each nugget. Daytime sun will dehydrate them into rock-solid travel buddies. Historians still argue whether the Mongols invented this slow-dry technique independently or borrowed it from Uyghur neighbors trading along the Orkhon Valley, but nobody disputes its staying power. Excavated tombs occasionally reveal intact curd clusters centuries. Old archaeology that doubles as snack break if ethics weren't a thing. Wind picks up, rustling trays like gamblers shuffling bone tiles. You spot your favorite lark perched on the rack, eyeing crumbs. The bird hops closer, pecks, recoils. Apparently the sour punch exceeds its Yelp tolerance. Redemption cancelled. Across camp, a shaman's drum thumps, calling spirits to inspect tonight's progress. You stroll over, curd in hand. The shaman fox fur hat, jade amulet, eyes glinting in firelight, accepts your offering, crushes it into powder, and flicks the dust into the flames. Sparks leap emerald green, courtesy of hidden copper salts in the Arul. Quirky callback. Remember the face mask bubble from Section 3? Tonight you're exfoliating afterlife. He chants, May. Journeys be light as curd, heart strong as curd, then pauses, winks, and adds, teeth stronger still. Joke number 3. If you don't floss with horsehair after a rule, did you even Nomad? Ceremony done, you rejoin the cheese line, brushing ash from your sleeves. The girl who first greeted you slides a palmful of still soft curd into a woven pouch and ties it to your belt, a traveler's ration merging kindness with dental challenge. You thank her. Vow to chew responsibly. Mainstream fact number 2. Modern nutritionists analyzing Arul found it retains up to 35% protein by weight and considerable vitamin evaluable when winter veggies are a rumor. It's no coincidence. Soviet-era space engineers once considered it for cosmonaut rations. Ultimately, they chose tubes of borscht, but the steppe almost went orbital. Camp quiets as families turn in. You linger at the rack, moon bathing the chalk nuggets. A distant full whinnies, perhaps dreaming of Section 2's milking lullaby. You flip a curd over habit more than necessity, and marvel at how sun and wind perform a duet older than any. Empire. No ovens, no timers, just celestial choreography drying breakfast for warriors yet unborn. You sit cross-legged on a folded saddle blanket, let the cool night breeze thread your hair, and nibble another sliver. Saliva returns eventually, releasing subtle flavors, buttery overtone, grassy mid-note, faint caramel finish thanks to lactose crystallizing over days. With no distractions, no neon, no push notifications, taste becomes time travel. You picture a 13th century courier galloping through snow, breaking identical shards against a saddle horn, fueling the relay that stitched history's largest land empire together. Your own saddle waits nearby, creaking gently like an old friend settling into sleep. You pat its worn leather, placing a single spiral curd in the pommel notch, a lucky charm for tomorrow's ride. Maybe you just flirted with your horse. These snack symbols are ambiguous. Overhead, the Milky Way burns so bright it looks spillable. Somewhere among those stars, lactose molecules from Section 3's steam offerings drift upward at the speed of poetry. You wonder if they'll ever rendezvous with the curd dust now curling into the stratosphere. Perhaps the universe is one big Dairy loop, cycling sour to sweet, liquid to stone, mortal to myth. A shooting star arcs west. Reflexively, you whisper a wish. May teeth endure, horizons widen, and may someone invent softer a rule by the time you hit retirement. You chuckle, rise, and cover the rack with thin gauze to keep dew at bay. Work lights out, snack factory closed at. The gear door you pause, listening to felt walls breathe. Inside, the matriarch snores gently. Outside, the Kurds sit silent as monks, meditating under starlight. Tomorrow they'll harden, tomorrow they'll travel, but tonight they hold the in-between state pliable, potential, poised. You yawn, jaw already practicing for the morning crunch, and step into the dark warmth of the yurt. The ember in the hearth glows orange, echoing the hot rocks from Section 4, a reminder that heat, though fleeting, always leaves something delicious. In its wake, you curl up under a horsehair blanket, fingertips still tasting of tart curd, and let the steady wind across the roof sing you down. Somewhere outside, that brave lark finally nails a perfect note-soft minor key, but this time your mouth doesn't sour. Instead, you let the melody fuse with the creamy aftertaste, a lullaby whipped by sun and stirred by moon. Tomorrow waits. With more flavors, tonight you sleep like a stone cooling in river water, slowly surrendering glow for dream. You wake before the camp rooster well. The camp doesn't keep roosters, but if one strayed in, it would still be blinking its coffee-craving eyes. A fine dusting of frost veils the grass, and your breath curls like lazy script in the frigid air. Inside the gear, embers sulk under yesterday's ash. You coax them with a splinter of dung, then feed a twist of dried sage. Flame answers with a woody sigh, and soon the hearth glows, a private sunrise, while the real one still lingers backstage. A wool-clad uncle squats beside you, knuckles raw from night chill, and unwraps a rectangular slab that looks suspiciously like a chunk of potting soil. He passes it to you, heavy, dense, faintly glossy. This is a brick of dark tea, compressed so viciously you could shingle a roof with it. Mainstream fact drop. During Qing-era trade, bricks like these replaced silver as currency along the tea. Horse road, and to this day, Mongolian herders store them the way city dwellers squirrel away battery packs. You lay the brick on a flat stone, pull out a gleaming sheath knife, and shave off curls the color of tree bark. Flecks scatter like coffee, grounds in slow motion. Joke number 1. Somewhere a hipster barista just felt a disturbance in the forced latte art is cancelled. Tea carpentry is in. The uncle fills an iron cauldron with river water, swings it over the now perky flames, and lets the shavings fall in. Almost instantly, the liquid clouds, turning the shade of varnished walnut. Time to add the signature step. Twist, a generous scoop of rendered sheep fat, cut from a pouch and plopped in with a plop worthy of cartoon sound effects. Globules swirl, then melt, giving the broth a buttery sheen that coats the inside of your nostrils. Quirky tidbit time. Older writers swear the ideal tea-to-fat ratio matches. The distance to the nearest monastery, farther monastery, more fat, because spiritual journeys burn calories too. Some even stir in a pinch of ground-roasted millet for extra body, dubbing the concoction portable soup. You glance around. Today's kettle skips the millet, but gains a surprise pinch of rock salt shaved from the same bricks hauled in. Section 4's saddle packs, callback, seasoning dot steam rises, tangy with tannins, savory from fat, faintly briny. The curl of vapor snakes up the smoke hole, then stalls when a gust outside presses down. Momentarily, the steamy column coils like incense, and the uncle murmurs a short prayer something about clear vision and steady rains. Historians still argue whether this tea ritual descends from Tibetan butter tea customs imported during the Yuan dynasty or from older Turkic brews that used wild herbs. Nobody contests that the current version could grease an axle in your arteries. In equal measure, You reach for the long-handled whisk, 3 willow branches bound, their tips frayed into fuzz. You plunge it in, with the tea clockwise, always clockwise, to mimic the apparent motion of the sun and keep the cosmos returning your calls. The fat emulsifies, turning the brew opaque, almost velvety, like hot chocolate that traded sugar for survival instincts. Your wrist aches after 20 spins, and joke number 2 pops up. Forget foam lattes, aerobic tea is how you get biceps and breakfast in one set. The matriarch appears, rubbing sleep from her eyes, and hands out horn cups, etched with wave motifs. She dips first elders, always prime the pot, then passes the cup to you. You inhale, earthy, barn sweet, with a smoked meat whisper. First sip is creamy yet astringent. The salt amplifies everything, and a mild tingle from tea caffeine prods your neurons awake. You weren't fully asleep, but now you're definitely. In HD, a child toddles over nibbling a fist-sized Arul nugget, yes, yesterday's grandfather curd. They dunk it straight into the tea, slurp, then gnaw. The hot liquid softens the curd's edges into chewable gum. That's your cue. You try the same. And the curd blooms like sour candy dissolving in broth, transforming the drink into a savory milkshake that would confuse every fast food-focused group on Earth. Mainstream. Fact number 2, scientific studies show brick tea supplies herders with fluoride and trace minerals missing from meat-heavy diets. While the fat delivers vitamins A and D, basically, it's a multivitamin masquerading as comfort beverage. Your nutrition app would throw up its hands, but your mitochondria clap in appreciation. Bianco pulls out a narrow bamboo tube capped with felt. He pops it open to reveal nothing. Then he appends it, and a gray dust drifts into his palm. Sun-dried, powdered wild onion. He pinches some onto the tea's surface. It melts instantly, releasing a scent akin to roasted scallion chips. Here comes the fringe. Some writers add onion for warmer blood. Others insist it wards off evil. Steppe spirits who hate tear-producing plants. Quirky indeed. You shrug and sip the onion adds a brothy backbone, turning the cup into liquid ramen, minus noodles and existential crisis. Conversation meanders from Mare pregnancies to saddle, repairs to the mysterious theft of a felt boot. Last full moon, suspect, passing fox, though theories abound. You catch a nugget about caravan gossip, apparently. Spice caravans now trade cinnamon sticks for tea bricks, and someone once steeped both together. An elder scoffs, palate of a tang poet. She mutters, but her eyes sparkle. Culinary. Rebellion never sleeps. Joke number 3 arrives when a young herder suggests floating diced arul in the brew for texture. You quip that they've invented steppe boba tea. Everyone laughs, then pauses as if considering patent options. Somewhere bubble tea franchises tremble. Outside, the sky slides from slate into rose as dawn finally decides to clock in. You step out with your horn cap, watch steam mingle with warm light, and remember Section 3's fermenting vat heartbeat. Both processes, whipping tea, churning milk, share that quiet insistence on motion turning raw into ready. Stand still too long, and flavor goes flat, life follows suit. A hawk cuts across the pink, its shadow skimming the air. You recall the kite from earlier, apparently the breakfast shift just changed guards. You pour a few drops of tea onto the earth, a micro libation to whoever manages raptor schedules. The liquid sizzles on frost, tiny fireworks for unseen. Auditors dot inside. The matriarch ladles the remaining tea into a tall skin flask for the road. She knots the neck with that same rawhide spiral pattern you now recognize from Mare hobbles, circular motifs everywhere. She hands the flask to you. Its warmth seeps through your coat, promising sips of courage when tomorrow's gusts howl louder than PODC ace ties, dot before sealing the hearth. You skim a spoonful of cooled fat off the surface and smear it on a crack in your weather-chapped knuckles Nomad lotion. SPF, don't question it. Historians still argue whether using tea fat as skin salve began as a battlefield improvisation or a winter camp beauty hack. But dermatologists missing contextual nuance might still sell it in boutique. Jars for $40 an ounce dot as the camp bustles bonnets. Tied saddle girths checked you, tuck your whisk into your belt, a badge of temporary teasmith. The uncle claps your shoulder, calls you hello and sigh, hot tea, which sounds suspiciously like a superhero nobody ordered. You bow thanks, secretly pleased. You mount your pony, feel the flask thump against your hip, and think how salty brick tea. May not taste like home yet, but it tastes like forward motion, like roads that promise more stories than any stationary life can cram into calories. The first swallow down the trail is a handshake with the horizon, warm, savory, faintly bitter everything. An honest day should start with dot steam drifts behind you as the pony breaks into a trot, and the scent of sheep fat tea twirls away on a playful breeze. Somewhere, invisible prayer smoke approves the brew, rising with the sun to paint blessings across the empty. Limitless blue.b song finds you before sunrise, fully shakes off its blankets. A low collective hum woven through. The canyon ahead, like monks chanting in tiny yellow sweaters. Your pony's ears flick at the sound, but you nudge forward. Leather bowl strapped to your saddle and a strip of yesterdays. Arrow tucked in your cheek for morale, and jaw workout multitasking never sleeps here. The gorge walls rise abruptly. Sandstone veined with quartz that glitters like someone spilled cosmic sugar. Halfway up, under a rocky overhang, hangs the prize, a fat, dripping hive bulging from a fissure. Bee traffic swaps shift so thickly that the air looks pixelated. You dismount, grip a coil of camel hair rope, and wonder how many modern wellness. Bloggers would pay to live stream what you're about to do. Joke number 1, sponsored content. I fell off a cliff for organic honey. Smash that like button before the bees smash me. First mission, calm the workforce. You pack a fistful of dried sage and dung chips into a copper censer borrowed from last night's tea session. Ember meets herb, fragrant smoke streams upward, and you swirl it around the hive entrance. Mainstream. Fact drop. Nomads have smoked out wild bees for centuries. Persian chronicler Ibn Battuta, noted steppe traders selling comb, perfumed by horsefire, as early as the 14th century. The bees retreat in a surprisingly orderly wobble, drunk on. Incense. You test the rope, anchor it around a knuckle of stone, and begin climbing. Each foothold is a mini victory. Each bee buzz near your ear, a reminder not to perform interpretive dance up here. Quartz sparks under your palms, and you recall Section 4's molten stones, same geology, new risk premium. At the ledge, you brace a boot, lean toward the hive, and slice away a golden slab with your skinning knife. Warm honey oozes instantly, thick as sunset on vacation, and dots your wrist. Quirky tidbit time. Certain clans swear bees that feed on wild thyme yield honey that confuses enemies' tongues, so warriors coat arrowheads with it for extra sting. Medicinal science unclear, psychological flex undeniable. You dedicate. This thought to whichever bee just headbutted your eyebrow. Comb secured. You lower it into your leather satchel and descend, legs quivering like reed flutes. Back on firm soil, Pony greets you with the judgmental stare of someone who thought. The meeting was an email. You break off a waxy corner chew. Flavors bloom, floral fireworks, caramel drizzle, echoes of sunlit grass. Historians still argue whether steppe nomads actively kept hives or merely raided wild ones, but either way, breakfast just leveled up. Time for the second course. You lead the pony along the canyon floor where low shrubs flaunt bright orange. Berries see buckthorn, the citrus of the tundra. Their color screams traffic cone. Their thorns whisper don't you dare. You slip on mittens of rough felt. Bee stings were warm up. thorn straw blood fines, and strip handfuls into your bowl. One berry bursts, misting your nose with tangy perfume. Joke number 2, Mother Nature's sour candy no wrapper. All attitude. Mainstream fact number 2, say buckthorn boasts up to 10 times the vitamin C of oranges. Soviet cosmonauts carried its oil into orbit for radiation protection. Out here, nomads mix the berries with melted fat to stave off scurvy long after snow buries every green thing. Today, you'll keep it simple, call it steppe smoothie, chunky style. You squat by a stream threading the canyon. Cool water sluices over honeycomb, washing stray bees away. One floats off like a tiny, angry boat. You crumble wax chunks into the bowl, drizzle liquid gold, then tumble in the berries. Colors collide. Molten amber meets neon tangerine. With a carved horn spoon, you mash gently. Purple seeds pop like bubble wrap, releasing citrus pine aroma. That could headline a spa. Taste test. First sip jolts like a solar flare, sweet rush dives into acidic slap. Finishes with grassy sigh. You mutter, wow, mouth still negotiating the treaty. Joke number 3. If lemonade and caramel got lost on a camping trip, this is their frantic says. A pair of goat herders wander up, eyes widening at your technicolor concoction. You pass the spoon. They grin, declare it Zelglute, lightning juice, then add a dash of brick tea salt from their pouches, callback fusion cuisine. The flavor sharpens, suddenly savory sweet, and you can almost feel mitochondria high-fiving. Conversation drifts to medicinal lore. One herder claims sea buckthorn leaves brewed with honey cure saddle sores. The other swears the berries brighten horse coats before market day. Historians still argue whether such practices sprang from Tibetan medical texts or older shamanic herb wisdom, but neither herder cares. Results greater than bibliography. You pour a libation of honeyed juice onto a flat stone, thanking cliff spirits for not turning you into bee confetti. A tiny lizard darts out, licking the droplets. Apparently, everyone queues for the buffet. You pack the remaining mash into a skin pouch, planning to stir it into tomorrow's millet or smear it on our roll for DIY fruit leather. In this climate, dehydrator equals wind plus patience. As you cap the pouch, sun clears the canyon wall, lighting every berry bush like it just unlocked a power-up. You inhale, pockets humming with sugar and vitamin C, and remember Section 2's milking hum. Motion plus song equals nourishment. Here, cliff plus smoke plus daring equals dessert. Different equations, same survival calculus. Pony snorts, eager to exit bee jurisdiction. You mount, feeling the honey stickiness on your fingers turn reins into a minor comedy routine. Ahead, the steppe unfurls again, open, expectant, as though wondering how many secret snack aisles you'll uncover before sundown. One last glance back, bees already regroup, stitching hexagons to mend the hive, resilience in real time. You tip an imaginary hat, promise to plant sea buckthorn seeds along future camps as payment. Whether they sprout is on the wind, but intent counts. Hoofbeats drum a steady cadence as you ride out of the canyon. Sweetness lingers on your tongue, tang sharpens your senses, and the leather bowl at your hip sloshes quietly, a portable sunrise for whatever chill creeps in later. Far ahead, a dust plume hints at the caravan's path, spices waiting to cameo. In Section 9, for now, you savor the afterbuzz, literal and metaphorical, and ride on. Feeling slightly more luminous than when morning found you, night has barely cooled the embers when a distant clatter of hooves approaches. 3 riders, silhouettes crisp against the amber moon. You're still licking phantom honey from your molars when the matriarch snaps into host mode, smoothing her felt deal and barking a few brisk commands. Guess right, you realize, is not a suggestion on the steppe. It's the social operating system version 1.0, never patched and never allowed to crash. If you fail it, breakfast tomorrow might be served with a side of blood feud. A low wooden table materializes at the gear's center, legs barely taller than your shins. A boy rolls out a striped rug so vivid it looks freshly stolen from a rainbow. Another girl darts past, balancing a brass kettle of milk tea between forearms like an Olympic relay baton. You join the scurrying someone hands you a stack of shallow wooden bowls still warm from yesterday's stone-heated porridge. The stakes feel weirdly high, like hosting a dinner party where the appetizer is potential warfare. The riders dismount, duck through the felt door, and the air tightens. First, the eldest hawk-nose, crow-black braid proffers his snuff bottle, an agate capsule flashing vermilion. The matriarch receives it with both hands, studies the stone, and nods once. Safe. Passage requested, tone civil. Mainstream fact drop. Exchanging snuff bottles became widespread under the Qing, but it piggybacked older Turkic salt-sharing customs. Today, even children know which color stones signal clan alliances. Your cue. Bowls in clockwise order, always. Starting with the honored guest at the north-facing place of prestige. You approach like a waiter who just realized the plates can double as shields. Bowl 1 lands before Hawknose. He inclines his head exactly 9 degrees. Yes, someone measured, symbolizing the 9 white banners of Mongol unity. Bowl 2 slides. To his lieutenant, a stocky woman whose face sports windburn swirls reminiscent of topographical map chic. Bowl 3 to the youngest. Eyes so wide you suspect he's cataloging exits in real time. Now the communal pot. It's a cauldron of Sutei Sai milk tea with a dab of Section 6's sheep fat still shimmering on top. You ladle clockwise sunwise around the pot before pouring, an edible blessing loop. As you fill Hawknose's bowl, you keep the ladles. Tips submerge to avoid splashes. A single drop on the hearth would insult the home spirit, and you'd rather not add anger a stove ghost to tonight's resume. Hawknose accepts. Blows 3 short puffs across the surface to honor sky. Earth and ancestors, then sips. Everyone exhales. Détente achieved. Joke number 1 flickers through your head. International diplomacy would speed up if global leaders had to prove slurp etiquette before signing treaties. With initial thirsts met, the real test arrives. The communal bowl of Arag, same fizzy. Murray's Milky churned in Section 3. This vessel is larger, carved from birch with silver inlay depicting wolves dancing around a moon casual flex. The matriarch presents it to Hawknose, who lifts it with palms. Not fingers, touching rims equals germs plus disrespect, sips once and passes clockwise. The lieutenant tilts the bowl until the liquid kisses the rim that does not drink, the signals. She's traveling under Hawknose's protection and will follow his lead. Lieutenant Solidarity plus Hydration hacked out, you watch the bowl circulate. Each pair of hands tracing an invisible circle that feels half ceremonial waltz, half bomb defusal choreography. Quirky tidbit time. Old folk law says if the bowl reverses, direction mid-circle, every rider must swap boots to confuse lurking demons. You eye the lieutenant's bearskin boots, menacingly large, and whisper a prayer to the demon unit tonight they stay unconfused. Your turn. You lift the bowl, its rim cool, its fizz hissing faintly like grass gossip. You sip, quick and modest, tasting fermented sparkle layered over echoes of your Section 2 milking labors. As custom rules, you wipe the rim with the heel of your hand. Never. Cloth, never sleeve, then send it on. The youngest rider's eyes widen at your competence. Small victory unlocked. Historians still argue whether this clockwise bowl ritual predates Buddhism's arrival or blended with Vajrayana mandala symbolism. Later on. Regardless, each pass writes trust into the room, bite by bite. Fumbled the direction, and metaphysical 404 errors crash the vibe. Next course. Boiled mutton ribs. You position the platter so the shank bones point toward guests. Blade bones toward hosts, signaling our knives face ourselves, not you. Knife etiquette on the steppe is chest played with cutlery. The lieutenant carves a rib, hands it to Hawk Nose, then selects a modest slice for her self-hierarchy maintained without speeches. Joke number 2. Somewhere a Michelin inspector just cried into his foie gras because this table service is sharper than his dinner jacket. Conversation flows in low hums. Topics, river crossings, a rumored wolf pack sporting unusually philosophical howls, and a Silk Road trader who claims Kamankur's saddle sores jury's out. Meanwhile, small signals continue. Hawknose places his knife flat across his bowl, meeting nearly over but not yet sealed. The matriarch pours a teaspoon of tea onto the hearth. Domestic spirits invited to eavesdrop. You decode these gestures like an over-caffeinated spy, realizing etiquette here is a kinetic language smarter than any phrasebook. Suddenly, the youngest writer coughs, nearly spills the arag. Immediate hush. Spillage could foretell misfortune. The matriarch acts fast. She tosses a pinch of ash into the hearth, symbolically turning bad luck to smoke. Everyone nods, exhale sensed. Crisis averted by micro-ritual, call it spiritual customer support. Mainstream fact number 2. The Mongol legal code. The Yasa explicitly protected travelers and envoys, punishing any host who harmed or insulted a guest. One reason their postal relay network functioned at ludicrous speed. Tonight's etiquette hallmarks echo that century-old law. Hospitality is infrastructure. Dessert arrives, yes. Your honeyberry masterpiece from Section 7. The matriarch lifts a spoonful high, lets honey thread back into the bowl, introducing sweetness into the savory rhythm like a jazz trumpet solo. Hawknose tastes, eyebrows shooting north. Even his stern braid seems to relax. He asks your name. You give it, and he taps his snuff bottle lid, twice in formal signal of favor. Joke number 3 whispers in. You just earned 5 stars on the Steppe app. To seal the night. Hawknose flips his empty bowl upside down, no more drink required, and the matriarch mirrors him. Bowls settle like period marks ending a chapter. Hawknose stands, produces a small felt pouch of cloves rare spice, places it beside the hearth as parting gift. Balance achieved. Host quenched guest's thirst. Guest enriches host's larder. Outside, hooves crunch frost as the riders mount. Before leaving, Hawknose bows from the saddle, touching right hand to forehead. Mouth, heart, mind, speech, spirit pledged to peace. The matriarch returns the gesture, and you echo half-beat late, but nobody minds. The riders vanish into silver grass, their silhouettes swallowed by moonlight. Inside, camp exhales. The communal bowl is rinsed with a splash of salty tea, then, propped rim down to dry mouth closed, secrets locked. The matriarch smiles at you, a curve soft as felt. You passed, she murmurs. You grin back, thinking of all the ways a simple clockwise turn just rewrote tomorrow's safety. As you roll up the rainbow rug, embers pop, releasing a peppery glow. You realize hospitality here isn't just courtesy, it's mutual insurance. Against a landscape that can kill with weather faster than any sword. Guest right stitches clans into an invisible quilt, snug enough to resist blizzards and border squabbles alike. You pour yourself a last sip of faintly cooled arag, savor the sour on your tongue, and feel the night settle smoother than honey on sea buckthorn. Somewhere a lark, yes, that persistent diva delivers one soft note, as if signing the treaty. You tip your invisible hat clockwise, always clockwise, and tuck etiquette lessons next to the rock in your pocket, ready for the next door you'll duck through on this endless grass sea. Morning shuffles back in wearing yesterday's goat hair slippers, but breakfast tastes nothing like the routines you've mastered so far. The matriarch waves you toward a low crest, overlooking a dusty convergence of tracks for pale ruts, radiating like spokes into emptiness. This is a crossroads caravan stop, a pop-up global market fueled by hooves, hope, and the collective craving for novelty. Think farmers market, If every vendor arrived on horseback with a personal epic in tow, you and two young herders trot down, saddle flasks sloshing with leftover salty tea. As you crest the final dip, tents bloom in riot colors. Indigo felt yurts beside Persian canvas awnings, Chinese silk tarps shimmering like koi. Smoke spirals from clay braziers carrying the perfume of cinnamon, cardamom, and a wink of sizzling mutton fat, the olfactory equivalent of a diplomatic handshake. Mainstream fact drop. After Karakorum was founded in 1220, Mongol rulers designated such satellite bazaars along coastal relay lines. Traders paid light taxes in exchange for imperial protection, which explains why cinnamon from Ceylon now shares airspace with goat bells from the Altai. You hitch your pony, already sensing your palate gearing up for a border-hopping workout. First, stall, a Sogdian merchant sporting a beard waxed into twin scimitars. He plunges a scoop into a sack, producing raisins as big as beetles, sun-cured on turpin vines. You sample one, explosions of caramel, sun, and desert dust. Quirky tidbit time. Locals nicknamed these camel freckles, claiming each raisin holds the heat of the beast that held it free portable fire, if you believe the marketing. Joke number 1. Somewhere, a camel is demanding residuals. The merchant slips you a handful. You mix them into your pocket stash of stone-heated millet from Section 4, and voila, instant fruit and grain fusion bar. A teenage herder tries one, eyes widening at the sugar rush. He gallops off shouting he can see through time. You make a mental note. Raisin ration equals equine energy drink. Next stall glitters with glass jars of spices. A Hitan woman taps lids, releasing microclouds of clove, black pepper, and dried ginger that pirouette in the sunlight. She grins, gestures at a battered brass mortar, then empties a little of everything in. You take the pestle, grind circles, until aromas hit warp speed pepper, tickles, ginger zings, clove wraps you in Christmas in July nostalgia. She sprinkles the blend onto a thin disc of mutton jerky. You bite and realize spice transforms dried meat from survival chew toy into something flirting awkwardly with gourmet charcuterie. Historians still argue whether Mongol adoption of heavy spice came from Persian chefs tagging along post-conquest, or from earlier Uyghur influences along the Turin Basin. Either way, your tongue votes yes. The Khitan woman insists pepper keeps the saddle sores away. You nod, because at this scent concentration, pepper could talk you into investment schemes. Joke number 2 bubbles. Pepper as venture capitalist. I've got a hot deal for your taste buds. Farther on, a Tibetan trader stirs a copper pot of jaggery unrefined cane sugar boiled down to squidgy bricks. He slices a sliver and tucks it into a horn cup of brick tea, crafting a proto-chai latte. You sip, smoky, salty, with a caramel bass line that hooks you harder than campfire gossip. Mainstream fact number 2, Yuan-era ledgers. Recorded sugar shipments to the northern frontiers, specifically earmarked for officers and medicinal syrups. Proving sweet cravings outrank chain of command that you spot your matriarch haggling for. A small pouch of saffron thread-like sunset droplets, worth more than most ponies. She plans to steep a single strand in tomorrow's festival porridge, turning it highlighter gold. You vow to be first in line. Meanwhile, you trade a slab of grandfather curd, Section 5 star, for a modest cone of black cumin seeds. Imagined future slow-cooked goat dancing behind your eyelids. Quirky callback. Remember the clove skiff left by Hawknose last night? Here. You learn it sells for 5 times more on the open market. Instead of cashing out, you tuck it deeper into your coat flavor beads fortune today. An Uzbek baker kneads dough on an upturned shield, slapping discs onto the tandoor wall until they puff like helium pillows. He slits one open, stuffs it with. Sea buckthorn honey compote, your own Section 7 invention, just went viral. He nods gratitude for the idea, apparently borrowed through gossip already, hands you the prototype. First bite, bread char crackles, honey drips, berries zing. Joke number 3. You're now collecting royalties and crumbs. Crowd energy swells as a caravan from the west. Clinks and brass censers swinging, frankincense smoke layering over cinnamon like competing FM radio signals. A boy sells sugared almonds, rolled in sesame. A Syrian doctor hawks rhubarb root to keep the breath fresh and belly brave. You chew one stick, wincing at tartness that almost unseats the raisin sugar high mouth doing CrossFit. Historians still argue whether rhubarb traveled for purgative fame or flavor, but Mongol medics stuffed it into saddle packs, citing digestive insurance. You decide it's edible insurance with steep premiums. As sunlight steepens toward amber, you rendezvous at a communal hearth assembled from river stones. Traders contribute bits, raisins, sugar shards, cumin, black tea, even a rogue. Pinch of saffron. Into a cauldron of water, they all tumble. You volunteer a fist of crushed arul. The Hitan woman grates ginger. 20 minutes later, a spiced milk tea stew perfumes the entire junction. Everyone forms a rough circle Silk Road micro-U in passing. Hornbowls, SUNWIC. First sip smacks of cinnamon, blooms into raisin caramel, then finishes with clove pepper warmth sliding down your spine like a heated arrow shaft. You glance around. A Persian groom sighs contentedly. A Kyrgyz boy hums a lullaby. The matriarch's eyes mist maybe from ginger vapors. Maybe from witnessing cultures stir themselves into something greater. Someone starts a joke about a camel, a yak, and a warhorse walking into a tea stall. Laughter ricochets past language barriers. You feel the bowl land in your hands again, still half full, still hot. Guess right rules extend here. Nobody leaves until the bowl's empty. Global. Cuisines merge in real time, no food bloggers required. Sun finally slips behind dunes, painting every tent seam copper. You stand, pockets heavier with spice than coins. The bazaar disassembles like a theater set, ropes unhitched, goods strapped, fires kicked into ashy submission. Yet you taste. Cinnamon ghost on your breath, proof the crossroads travels with you. Back at camp, the matriarch stashes her saffron like state secrets. You tuck raisins into your saddlebag, imagining tomorrow's stone-heated porridge graduating with honors. The air cools, but a residual pepper buzz keeps your blood THRUMING. As stars sharpen overhead. You realize the Silk Road flavors aren't guest appearances, they're here to stay. Rewriting breakfast scripts across the steppe. Soon, Marie's will be milk to rhythm spiked with clove. Millet will cuddle raisins. Curds may meet sugar on special occasions. Culinary borders blur like hoofprints in wind. You flop onto your blanket, head spinning, not from alcohol, but from a spice carousel whirling behind your eyes. Somewhere a caravan bell jingles out of earshot, but its echo lingers in your taste. Buds. Sleep sidles up, smelling faintly of cumin and sun-dried grape. You exhale. Whisper thanks to raisins, pepper, sugar, and the unseen roads that folded the world into your bowl. Tomorrow's dawn will still arrive pink and chilly, but now it carries a secret tingle of cardamom in its pocket. Waiting to surprise some unsuspecting porridge. Winter slams the steppe like a giant yanking. The blind's daylight shrinks to a pale ribbon. Wind whistles straight off Siberia, and every breath you exhale turns into confetti. The herd has migrated farther south, yet the cold still nips your fingers through 3 layers of felt. Breakfast, however, refuses to hibernate. While the camp snores under frosted gare roofs, you follow the matriarch outside. Boots crunching through drifted powder till they squeak like new snow boots in a mall. Except your mall is a minus 30 degrees Celsius icebox with wolves on security detail. She carries a squat ceramic crock wrapped in goat wool, steam ghosting from its mouth. Inside sloshes yesterday's Tarag yogurt cultured from Mara's milk, and spiked with a ladle of yesterday's batch. The oldest form of sourdough starter, you know? Mainstream fact drop. Franciscan envoy William of Rubruck recorded in 1254 that Mongol women thicken milk in great pots, warm by the fire 1 hour, then bury it in cold for firmness, proving probiotic breakfasts were trending centuries. Before supermarket shelves caught on your task, freeze preserve. The matriarch picks a spot where it drifts rice chest high, stabs a wooden pole to mark the cache. No one wants to excavate random white lumps later, and digs a trench with a spade carved from you. The snow squeals like styrofoam. Flakes sparkle under moonlight as though someone spilled a bag of diamond chips. You set the crock in, tucking felt scraps around it like tucking in a toddler who bites. Quirky tidbit time. Some clans swear, smell, remember songs. They sing a quick tune 4 bars about sprouting grass before covering the pot, believing the melody hibernates inside and replays when thawed. You hum along, realizing you've just made the world's coldest mixtape. Snow heap rebuilt. The Croc's only ID is that pole sporting a knotted strip of red cloth. Joke number 1, like planting a flag on the moon. Except you're claiming territory for yogurt and intestinal health. Back in the gear. You throw extra dung on the hearth and prep the rest of winter's breakfast menu. Millet, rock salt, and a strip of dried mutton fat so stiff you could file nails on it. The matriarch gestures to a timeline sketched on a splinter of bone. Each crock stays under snow exactly 2 nights, long enough to arrest fermentation, but not long enough to turn it into dairy sherbet. Rotating crocks equals rolling inventory yogurt aged on ice. Before anyone coined that marketing phrase, historians still argue whether these sub-zero storage tricks came from Turkic tribes who engineered permafrost cellars along the Yenisei, or if Mongols perfected the method after noticing that forgotten milk skins turned spoonable once spring thaw arrived. Either way, you now operate a walk-in freezer the size of a continent. Dawn crawls in late and colorless. You hike back to the snow mound, pole guiding like a lighthouse in the white sea. Shovel the drift aside, steam bursts from the revealed. Felt wrapped despite the freeze, proof of residual fermentation heat locked up like a secret handshake. The crock lid creaks open. Inside, Tarag looks custardy, jiggles under your spoon. First taste sends chili tang tap dancing over taste buds. It's thick, almost scoopable, like Greek yogurt that binge-watch survival shows. You pack half the crock into a hide bag, swirl in yesterday's sea buckthorn honey, Section 7 cameo, until streaks of orange marbled through white. Back at the hearth, millet bubbles in a pot already primed with brick tea brine for that salty sweet push-pull Mongols adore. You ladle frozen yogurt directly over the porridge temperature. Shock audible as a soft hiss. Joke number 2. Congratulations. You've invented Steppe affogato oatmeal a la sorbet. Spoon lifts, steam mingles with frost mist, and the first mouthful plays hot-cold ping-pong across your tongue. Honey tart tang rides on nutty grains still crunching at the core. The matriarch grins, revealing snow-white teeth that prove hard curds and cold yogurt double as dental floss. Mainstream fact number 2. Modern food scientists analyzing frozen tarag found its lactic acid bacteria remain viable below 18 degrees Celsius, explaining why nomads could restart a fresh batch weeks later by simply thawing a scoop nature's freeze-dried probiotic starter. You feel history fizz under your molars like time-release culture capsules. Fire pops, flinging sparks up the smoke hole where morning sky blushes lilac. The matriarch estates you guardian of the remaining half-crock. Tie it to a rawhide thong. Swing it outside to re-chill for evening. You comply, nearly moonwalking on ice patches. The yogurt sloshes, half liquid, half custard, sounding like distant waves under pack ice. You set it on a drift, push snow around its sides, and pat it, fondly kid yogurt. Stay. Quirky callback. You pocket a pebble taken from the bottom of Section 3's airag vat, warm from hearth. You bury it beside the crock. Legend says mixing warm stone and cold yogurt guarantees heroic dreams. Whether placebo or not, it beats counting goats. Back indoors, everyone tucks into bowls, silence broken only by spoons hitting wood. A teenage herder attempts yogurt mustache art. Frost nips his lip. Mustache freezes into avant-garde sculpture. Joke number 3. Facial hair trends come and go, but dairy cycles might not take off in Milan. Belly warming despite outside. Tongue rivaling a cryogenic spa. You realize this breakfast is winter humility and chemistry rolled into one. Keep cultures alive. Keep heat in your gut. Repurpose snow from adversary to pantry. The steppe whispers. Survive by collaborating with the climate rather than wrestling it. After dishes, you help torch fresh sage in the hearth. Its resinous smoke dries wet boots and deodorizes the gear, doubling as spirit-friendly cologne, apparently. Ghost sphere foot odor. Historians still argue whether sage species here were transplanted via Silk Road monks or native strains. Your sinuses only care that it clears frozen nostril lint dot. The matriarch stores tomorrow's milk starter near the fire for 2 hours. Wake it, she says before tucking it under snow. The cycle continues, a dance between flame and frost. You jot mental notes. Heat invites microbes, cold pauses them, and breakfast remains on schedule regardless of wind chill dot outside. Midday sun glints off ice crystals, making the plain look sugar-coated. Horses crunch through crusty drifts, snorting steam halos. You join a small crew repairing sled runners with boiled hide glue yogurt's way byproduct, repurposed yet again. Nothing here ends with a period. Every substance finds a sequel. Evening approaches, and the crock you reburied has firmed to a perfect scoop. You serve it drizzled with melted jaggery from Section 9's Market Hall, plus a micro pinch of clove. First spoonful tastes like winter itself conceded defeat, offering sweet turns. Everyone laughs in that special hush snow creates, clove aroma mingling with frozen breath to sketch invisible calligraphy as stars ignite. You realize you've adopted new instincts. Eyes scan drifts for yogurt flags, ears parse crackling ice. For signal of crock collapse, muscles memorize tempo of shoveling powdered sugar that masquerades as snow. Breakfast may sleep under meters of white, but it wakes on demand, bearing tart joy. Before bed, you check the pebble by the snow pile still warm to your imagination at least. You hum yesterday's curd spiral song, hoping the snow remembers. Wind answers in a hush, wrapping the camp while moonlight polishes each drift into porcelain. You crawl into the gear, tasting faint clove and sea buckthorn ghost on your palate. Proof winter breakfasts carry notes of every season before and after. The fire sighs low. Tuareg cultures nap deep in their chilly burrow, and you surrender to dreams, flavored with hot grain and cold tang. Somewhere beyond the felt walls, the snow rearranges itself, perhaps rehearsing tomorrow's song, promising that even at 30 degrees Celsius, breakfast remains an unbroken chord. The wind tastes metallic this morning. Maybe it's the iron-tipped arrows fanned beside the hearth. Maybe it's the collective pulse of horses stamping outside like drums warming up for a rock set. Either way, dawn refuses to be gentle. You cinch your belt one notch tighter, feeling the air crackle with the same electricity that hums before thunderstorms or student protests. Raid day calls for a breakfast that can sprint, somersault, and still punch through a breastplate at noon. The matriarch greets you with a clay basin of boards, beef stripped thinner than parchment, sun-dried until it resembles mahogany ribbons. Mainstream fact drop. William of Rubric noted in 1254 that Mongol riders pulverized the dried meat into powder, slipped it into water skins, and produced soup in minutes, a medieval ramen packet with homicidal ambitions. She hands you a fistful and a stone mortar. You grind until the fibers surrender, becoming a fluffy, dusky snow dot. Next comes Kia blood sausage. A teenage cousin holds up a link that could moonlight has a bicycle inner tube, crimson black, and glossy. You slice tastes, earthy iron, fat velvet, pepper flare, courtesy of Section 9 spice spree. Historians still argue whether blood sausage tech came westward from Turkic Bashkirs or brewed locally when someone asked, "What if we don't waste anything?" Either way, the answer ended up delicious and slightly alarming. Quirky tidbit. Time. Veteran archers swear tucking a sausage loop inside your right boot keeps ankle tendons warm and loyal. Though skeptics suspect it's really midnight snack insurance. You tuck one in research purposes. Joke number 1. Congratulations. Your footwear now has a blood type dot. The matriarch slides you a rawhide pouch the size of a paperback. Inside, pocket jerky studded with cumin seeds and honey glaze, the love child of Section 5 curd bricks, and Section 9 spice diplomacy. Thin enough to fold like origami, dense enough to outlive your helmet. You roll several sheets, slip them behind your breastplate. The warmth of your chest will soften the honey, turning each bite into caramelized courage mid-melee. Meanwhile, bronze cauldrons simmer a thick brew, reconstituted boards plus millet dust, seasoned with garlic and buckthorn oil. Steam curls. Fogging arrowheads you sharpen on a whetstone. You ladle dollops into leather flasks emblazoned with wolf sigils. One gulp later, your tongue tingles from salt, tang, smoke, and possibility. Joke number 2. Electrolyte drinks wish they could. Bench press what's in this thermos. You step outside. The horizon glows pewter, treeless, judgmental. Horses jingle in half-armored tack rawhide lamellae sewn to saddle blankets to protect their flanks. You slide jerky sheets into a saddlebag next to a small clay vial of fermented Mare's milk. Concentrate, reduced to a syrup thicker than maple literal energy shots. Mainstream fact number 2. Contemporary Persian chronicler Javani claimed Khan's messengers could cover 200 miles a day, fueled by only a pinch of dried milk and meat, likely these very items you're stashing. A smith hammers last-minute bevels onto arrowheads. Sparks fly into dawn, reminding you of snow memories from Section 10. You test an iron tip against your thumb, draws a bead of red. Good. Quirky callback. Dab a speck of honey on it. Thanks. Section 7, to prevent rust. The smith nods approval. Saying rust spirits hate sugar. Weapons ready. You return for final calorie loading. The matriarch plops a sausage coil onto the coals just long enough to blister the casing. Fat pops, releasing a smell so rich it feels like biting a metallic gold coin. You slice cross-sections, each medallion marbled crimson and ivory. First bite, molten center, peppery smoke, mineral tang that makes your molars hum patriotic hymns. You chase it with a swig of brick tea salt brew from your hip flask. Sweet meets savory. Hot meets iron. Historians still argue whether Mongols carried portable stoves or simply trusted campfires en route. Either way, you now wield heat-kissed protein in one hand and curved bow in the other. Proof logistics win wars before arrows fly. Camp's rhythm shifts. Shamans drum a heartbeat tempo, flicking cedar smoke across horse foreheads. You approach. They dab a smear of sausage fat on your bow tip, blessing or lubrication. Nobody's quite sure. Joke number 3. If arrows had taste buds, this would be the last meal request. Mount up call echoes. You swing into the saddle, jerky pressing warm against your chest like edible armor. The horse sidesteps, muscles quivering, nostrils flaring, at the scent of blood sausage tucked in your boot. You grip reins, feel pulse sinking with hooves. Formation rolls east. Frozen grass snaps underfoot, sky bleeds pale rose. You reach for a jerky strip mid-trot, bite off the edge. Cumin and honey bloom, caffeinating your jaw. Another rider gulps sports water, wipes foam mustache, shouts a joke about superpowered arrows. Laughter steams white. 20 minutes out, the vanguard halts near a frozen stream. Everyone dismounts, kneels, and flicks crumbs of jerky into the water-appeasing river spirits. Or perhaps just sharing breakfast with fish that won't bite today. Traditions stack like layered armor, one part superstition, one part diplomatic. Insurance against unseen forces. You crunch through snow, scanning for your reflection. The water mirrors a warrior wearing breakfast blood sausage boot, jerky breastplate, honeyed sword tips. You look ridiculous and unstoppable. Back on horseback, wind knifes cheeks. But sausage warmth hugs your ankle, jerky sweetness leaks into veins, and lactic acid from the concentrate hums like a low gear. You recall Section 6's T-whisk, clockwise. Turns build foam. Here, clockwise circuits of protein around your body build momentum dot as the raid column trots into full gallop. The matriarch's voice echoes, food that can fight with you will not desert you. You raise a strip of jerky like a banner, bite down, and feel the steppe answer wide, ruthless, cheering, hooves drum faster. Arrowheads rattle. Breakfast might have started in a quiet gare with a grindstone and a humble sausage loop, but now it thunders at your side, welded to bone and purpose. The wind roars back, and somewhere inside its howl, you swear you hear the distant crunch of arul and the fizz of arag reminding you that whatever comes next. Survivors still have to eat. You return from the raid 3 days later, windburned, arrow smudged, and riding on half an hour of sleep, only to discover the true high command of camp isn't the war council at all. It's the breakfast. Brigade of women circling the hearth like planets in tight gravitational lock. Their ladles flash quicker than swords, voices weaving a bustle cantata that slaps your ego back into its sheath. One matriarch eyes the mud on your boots, points the ladle like a general's baton, and you immediately heel click as if she were a marshal of 10 TUMEN. First order of business. Unload your saddlebag tribute spices, raisins, and the still warm. Jerky pressed to your chest in Section 11. She inspects the hall, lips twitching at cumin seeds you nearly forgot, then slides a wooden tally stick through her belt. What isn't logged doesn't exist. Joke number 1 sparks in your head somewhere. There's an MBA. Student who'd pay tuition to study this. Inventory system. The kitchen ring looks less like domesticity and more like a mobile operations center. 3 tripods cradle iron cauldrons, 1 for arag warming, 1 for millet boiling, 1 for mystery stew only the elders get to name. A younger woman kneads dough on an upturned shield, levering elbows with pugilist precision. Another trims fat from mutton ribs using a razor-sharp arrowhead, because multitasking here means every object moonlights. Mainstream fact drop. Marco? Polo remarked how Mongol women attend to all things of the household, so men be free for war. Yet modern anthropologists emphasize they also control trade negotiations in custody of herds. Economic generals in plain felt armor. You're drafted into potato duty, or rather, wild tubers that masquerade as potatoes. The matriarch demonstrates a peel flick that leaves ribbon spiral coiling to the ground. You imitate, nearly flinging a tuber across the tent. She catches it midair without looking, the force evidently strong with breakfast Yoda. Quirky tidbit. Time. Some families swear the peel spirals predict weather-tight curls mean blizzard, loose loops mean thaw. Yours flop like overcooked noodles, prompting collective oof laughter. A girl named Altana plunks a hollow bone beside you. The song whistle. Every 10 stirs you blow a note to pace the cauldron's boil. Too slow and note scorches, too fast and foam overruns like rebellious magma. Historians still argue whether this whistle timing device originates in ancient Shongni rituals, or if it evolved later when Silk Road flutes got repurposed for porridge. Either way, you're now part flutist, part sous chef, breath steaming through. Bone while smoke freckles your cheeks dot near the hearth slip. An elder adds a pebble, yes, the warmed river stone from Section 4 into the arag pot, so it circulates heat evenly. She taps the rim twice, muttering, "Stone remembers dawn." You sense a callback bingo. Breakfast here is built on continuity, each object carrying echoes of previous meals and miles. The dough-pounding shield spins to you next. Altana lifts a round elastic sheet and slaps it onto the gear wall to air dry for dumplings later. The striking sound blacks like a drumbeat, syncopating with whistle notes. Joke number 2 lands. This kitchen could headline Coachella Beats by Broth. Ladle General pauses to taste stew with a flat-boned spoon, frowns, snaps fingers. A runner fetches your common treasure. She sprinkles a pinch, then gestures, more. You dare suggest raisins for sweetness, the table hushes. She considers eyebrow, arching Himalayan, but then nods. Ingo, raisins, sinking like treasure chests in murky depths. Moments later, steam carries caramel whispers and silent approval ripples. You didn't just cook, you negotiated. Mainstream fact number 2. 13th century widow regent Trajin Khatin managed state affairs for 5 years, proving Mongol society often handed the strategic ladle entirely to women. Breakfast command today feels like a micro version of that Regency supply lines. Morale management, quelling minor insurrections when toddlers attempt coups for extra honey. A commotion near the entrance. A herder returns with news of a stray lamb found shivering by a frozen creek. Without pause, the matriarch diverts broth, ladles it into a horn bottle, and hands it off as thermal first aid. No spreadsheet needed triage decisions. Ride shotgun with flavor profiles. Altana now folds dumpling skins around minced sports powder, crimping edges with a fingernail pattern that resembles wolf tracks. She tells you each pleat symbolizes a herd she hopes to own someday. Culinary vision board in 3D. You practice one. Yours looks like a camel stepped on it. Joke number 3. Nadam should add dumpling origami to the sports lineup. High stakes. Delicious penalty. The stew finally reaches quorum. Fatty shimmer. Raisin orbs bobbing. Cumin perfume swirling like desert wind gossiping with snow. Tasting spoons circulate clockwise. Etiquette never sleeps. You sample. First hit savory depth. Then a surprise raisin pop brightens the broth. And cumin finishes with a warm handshake that tells your stomach, we've got this. Ladle General grunts approval, flicks a finger at the bowl's cue. Serving. Begins with elders, then children, then you raiders turn line cooks. The hierarchy feels less about age and more about narrative. Those who shape tomorrow eat first. Those who chased yesterday's enemy eat last. Now humbled enough to taste gratitude, you slurp. Feeling nutrients reconvene frayed muscles. Whistle. Duty ends. Bone pipe rests like an exhausted bird. Someone hangs the arrowhead knife above the doorpost, a charm against dull mornings. The shield-turned dough board gets wiped, greased, and strapped to a pony saddle for evening patrol. Every utensil returns to multi-purpose form. Nothing idle. As bowls empty. Gossip fires up. Who stitched the fastest seam? Whose dumpling survived? Whose peel spirals predicted thaw? The matriarch kicks embers, eyes twinkling, declaring the forecast mild based on your noodles. Smiles ripple collective decision to believe food auguries over official caravan bulletins. Dishes finish when each person pours a trickle of tea into their bowl, swirls, and drinks the rinse water too precious for a separate wash cycle. Outside, a breeze rattles felt flaps, reminding you raiders resheath swords, but cooks never sheath ladles. You help Altana load leftover dough strips into a pouch for riders on afternoon patrol. She gives you a Wolftrek dumpling, half joking that it's a talisman. Where stomach goes, feet follow. You tuck it near the blood sausage ankle wrap. Nutrition meets superstition in your boot. Before dispersing, the matriarch plants the ladle upright in ash, handle pointing east. Day's orders encrypted. Hearth is dormant, but morning morale already secured. You realize battle tactics may decide borders, yet breakfast choreography decides whether warriors show up in one piece to fight it all. As you step out, snowflakes drift, the first shy flakes of what might become a storm. You recall your floppy peel spiral blizzard omen? If so, Women's Kitchen Command will pivot again. More frozen tarag, extra fat for tea, dumplings dried into travel rations. Strategy. Brewed before sunrise, you mount your pony. The stews come in warmth, lingering in your beard, dumpling charm bumping your shin. Behind you, ladle clinks against cauldron, sounding oddly like a bell tower calling the world to order. And for a fleeting moment, you realize empires may rise on horseback, but they stay upright on the steady rhythm of women's ladles, beating. Time into the collective heart, mid-afternoon shadows lean long across the steppe when the drumbeat changes slower, deeper beckoning everyone toward the ritual ground beyond the gares. You follow the pulse past drying racks of arwul and the snow mound where frozen Tarek dreams, Section 10 cameo. In a ring of trampled grass stands the camp's ovu, a low cairn of stones, scraps of blue silk fluttering like tiny prayers on laundry day. Here, food gets introduced to forces you can't Google. 3 shamans greet you, antler headdresses nodding in the breeze. The eldest eyes the color of fogged obsidian waves, a cedar branch fan over a bronze cauldron. Resin pops, releasing pine-sweet smoke that curls up and then oddly sideways, as if following invisible lanes. Joke number 1 whispers in your head. Air traffic for ghosts has stricter routes than modern airlines. You carry the tribute, a broad wooden bowl of raisin cum stew left from Section 12, crowned with frozen tarad nuggets for textural chaos. The lead shaman rasps a greeting, voice crackling like a dung fire. She sprinkles juniper needles into the coals. Sparks leap green, as though emeralds are exploding in slow motion. Mainstream fact drop. Archaeological digs at Yulin Ul uncovered. 7th century hearths ringed with burnt juniper and cedar, suggesting these aromatic woods were staples in early steppe rituals long before the Mongol Empire stamped its passport. Historians still argue whether those rites centered on ancestor veneration or a proto-Tingri sky cult, but everyone agrees juniper smoke remains a backstage pass for spirits. The shaman gestures. You step into the circle, bowl held shoulder high. She taps its rim thrice with a carved elk bone wand, each tap aligning with the drumbeat. Smoke coils around your fingers, cool yet prickly like carbonated air. She murmurs syllables that roll over each other like pebbles in a river your language. Skills catch fragments, nourish, north wind, 9 mothers. Quirky tidbit time. A junior shaman spritzes a few drops of fermented. Murrays melt the super reduced syrup you tucked behind your breastplate in Section 11 into the smoke, claiming its acidity open spirit nostrils. You imagine a ghost. Sneezing politely, then decide that may be the most delightful health claim in beverage history. Now comes the seasoning of the unseen. The elder shaman dips the cedar fan into melted sheep fat, mixed with powdered sea buckthorn leaves. She flicks. The mixture skyward. Flecks disperse like glowing pollen, caught in a private updraft that only the smoke seems to notice. Some land in your hair congratulations, you're now wearing O-to-dash cosmic dash salad dash dressing drumming intensifies. You kneel, place the bowl on a small tripod carved from intertwined wolves. Callback to Section 3's dipper handle. The smoke thickens, tracing perfect spirals above the stew, so perfect you recall the curd spirals. Molded back in Section 5, the camp kids gasp. Apparently, if the spirals stay unbroken, the next hunt will be bountiful, or teeth will resist even older AARU, old. The elder chants directions. East for dawn's hunger, south for summer fatness, west for ancestral fortitude, north for winter's stamina. With each cardinal word, she scatters a tiny spoon of spiced salt from Section 6's tea bricks onto the stew. The salt dissolves instantly, but the aroma shift as unmistakable pepper blooms hotter. Cumin deepens, terractine brightens like citric fireworks. Your joke number 2 surfaces but stays respectful. If Michelin had a spirit realm edition, This is the live plating round. Suddenly, silence drums halt mid-dump. Everyone exhales in one soft whoosh that feels scripted. The elder lifts a raven feather fan, sweeping smoke over the seated warriors, then turns to children, then to the cooking women. Egalitarian incense distribution. Nobody leaves scentless. She stops at you, presses the fan to your chest. Heatless electricity zings through ribs where jerky once warmed. Section 11 memories. She speaks, stone in your pocket. You blink, then remember the warm pebble buried beside frozen turag. You present its twin, the river-smooth rock you, pocketed after stone-heated porridge. She smiles, sets it on the tripod's edge, declaring it a memory shard. Historians still argue whether stones serve as spirit anchors or mnemonic devices, but right now it earns VIP seating, offerings next. Everyone plucks a morsel. You pinch a raisin, place it atop the cairn. A herder lays a shred of boards. A toddler, coached, sets a dab of honey on a flat stone where ants will later host an after-party. The shaman adds the piece de resistance, one shard of grandfather Arul kissed by cedar smoke. Joke number 3 flits by if Arul can chip teeth. Surely it can chip superstition into shape. Mainstream fact number 2, modern ethnographies. Note shamanic food blessings often double as communal ration audits. What's offered tells leaders how supplies run. If the bowl lacks fat, winter stores are thin. If berries scarce, someone skipped foraging. Today's bowl, rich and diverse, signals camp health as strongly as any blood sausage manicure. The elder raises her elk bone wand for final flourish. She carves a figure 8 in smoke, the infinity loop, symbolizing uninterrupted grazing roots, and whispers, may flavor follow footsteps. With that, cedar flames fall low. Wind scatters the last spirals into sky like sent emails without read receipts. Ceremony concluded. You sip. The flavor lands surprisingly true sour sweet, breath of grass, but there's a faint metallic whisper from the thermos. Your tongue catalogs micro differences, the way audio feels, compare vinyl and streaming. You glance at the teen. He's grinning, proud that tradition now packs to go. Mainstream fact drop. A 2019 survey by Mongolia's Ministry of Food reported over 40% of nomadic households keep powdered air egg packets for winter, ensuring probiotics survive even when Marais don't lactate. Inside, LED strips halo the crown. Ring, yet a cast iron stove still burns horse dung briquettes. Grandma squats beside it, flipping rice-filled dumplings, Section 14 callback, on a non-stick pan stamped made in a lawn botter. She hums the milking tune your hands once fumbled, proving some earworms outlive the device that records them. Dinner morphs into breakfast 2.0, Arul chips dipped in store-bought blueberry jam, salty brick tea brewed in an electric kettle. And for novelty, plastic-wrapped seaweed sheets the student brought from Seoul. Quirky tidbit time, he claims Nomad gamers snack on curd seaweed sandwiches during battery-draining PUBG sessions because the combo keeps fingers grease-free. Historians still argue whether future dissertations will cite esports as the next conduit for culinary fusion. You remember the cedar smoke spirals from Section 13 and toy with the jam-dunked curd shard. Smoke memory mingles with berry sugar, and your mouth throws a surprise reunion party. Joke number 2 rises. If this trend continues, the first Michelin-starred dish on Mars will probably be freeze-dried Mari's milk panna cotta with dehydrated sushi nori. Everyone laughs. Grandma most of all. Apparently, Mars is closer than the nearest winter pasture. Conversation slides into then and now comparisons. The student shows a drone video he shot this morning, heard shot from above, horses swirling like iron shavings around a magnet. You whistle. The aerial spiral echoes the smoke figure 8s blessed by shamans. Technology didn't erase patterns. It just gave them HD playback. Mid-chat, Grandpa emerges, phone in hand, cheeks rosy from 4G weather updates. He mutters that. Satellite forecasts trump potato peel divination, Section 12 forecast fiasco, but he still won't skip singing to snow-buried Turag crocs. Better overinsured, he winks. You nod, sipping more instant Arag that tastes less instant the second time around. Mainstream fact number 2. UNESCO listed traditional knowledge of the Ger and associated customs as intangible cultural heritage in 2013, prompting a revival movement where young nomads live-stream yurt building tutorials. That explains the GoPro perched on the stovepipe, silently gathering burl for a TikTok debut titled 10 Breakfast Hacks Your Ancestors Perfected First. Grandma ladles one final bowl of salty tea, sprinkles a pinch of cinnamon market, spice encore, and slides it your way. Heat meets Arag fizz, still coating your palate, forging a weirdly satisfying hot-cold duet reminiscent of frozen Turag over porridge. Section 10 cameo. Joke number 3. You dub it Steppe root beer float, and Grandpa snaps a photo for possible brand licensing. Night thickens. The solar panel's charge fades. Battery lights dim to amber. Someone flips off the power entirely, and the ceiling reverts to its prehistoric star hatch. Through the smoke hole you spot Orion's belt jangling like a warrior's buckle, a reminder that while thermoses gain double insulation, constellations haven't updated firmware in millennia. You lean back, feeling the thermos against your hip, just as jerky once pressed there. Breakfast has traveled light years metaphorically, from raw mare froth tickling a wooden dipper to powdered probiotic sloshing in stainless steel. Yet the core equation, grass to horse to human to horizon, still solves for survival and belonging. Every single dawn dot you raise the final sip toward the smoke hole, offer it to ancestors, Wi-Fi ghosts, and maybe the algorithm deciding tomorrow's search suggestions. Foam traces a crescent inside the cup tiny moon you've swallowed all night. Bells jingle outside as horses shift, and you realize dawn is only 6 hours away. Ready to recycle the menu once more, you pop the thermos lid shut, the faint hiss sealing modernity inside, and stretch beneath a camel wool blanket. Somewhere beyond felt walls, lithium ion and lactic acid dream shoulder to shoulder, and you drift with them, tasting centuries collapsing into a single sweet sour breath. The Ger quiets until even the wind seems to tiptoe, its earlier swagger soften into a hush that brushes the felt like a lullaby written in feathers. Your eyelids loosen, heavy as saddlebags finally set down, and every inhale draws in the faintest traces of cedar smoke, cinnamon dust, and that lingering fizz of Arag, now a memory more than a flavor. Outside, hoofbeats have settled into slow, contented shifts, each clop muffled by frostnap ground. You imagine the horses breathing clouds that drift upward to join constellations, small puffs of white stitching the sky back together. The solar panel, dark now, gleams only with starlight, reminding you that even bright things rest out inside. The stove embers glow a muted orange, pulsing like a friendly lighthouse guiding thoughts toward calm waters. Each pulse seems to lengthen, your breaths stretching seconds into soft ribbons. With every exhale, shoulders slide lower, weight surrendering to the blanket's gentle gravity. Felt walls insulate more than heat. They muffle the world's edges. Distant worries, deadlines, traffic horns, unfinished emails can't find the door flap. Instead, your mind strolls the day's flavors in slow motion. Salty tea warmth, honeyed berry sparkle, dumpling steam. Sighing open. They fade one by one, like lanterns gently dimmed, so night can take its rightful place. Somewhere a reed flute pipes alone, languid note, perhaps a herder serenading the moon, perhaps just wind flirting with hollow grass. The sound unravels the final knot of WAKEFU. Anisas, you nestle deeper, heartbeat sinking to the ember's glow. Thoughts then stretching into dream threads where rivers hiss over hot stones and curd spirals never chip teeth. The steppe exhales. A steady, endless hush, and you float on it, weightless, timeless, already halfway to tomorrow. Isep. The flavor lands surprisingly true sour sweet breath of grass, but there's a faint metallic whisper from the thermos. Your time catalogs micro differences the way audiophiles compare vinyl and streaming. You glance at the teen, he's grinning, proud that tradition now packs to go. Mainstream fact drop. A 2019 survey by Mongolia's Ministry of Food reported over 40% of nomadic households keep powdered arak packets for winter, ensuring probiotics survive even when Maoris don't lactate. Inside, LED strips halo the crown. Rain, yet a cast iron stove still burns horse dung briquettes. Grandma squats beside it, flipping rice-filled dumplings, Section 14 callback, on a non-stick pan stamp made in Ulaanbaatar. She hums the Mar-A milking tune your hands once fumbled, proving some earworms outlive the device that records them. Dinner morphs into breakfast 2.0, our old chips dipped in store-bought blueberry jam, salty brick tea brewed in an electric kettle. And for novelty, plastic-wrapped seaweed sheets the student brought from Seoul. Quirky tidbit time. He claims Nomad gamers snack on curd seaweed sandwiches during battery-draining PUBG sessions because the combo keeps fingers grease-free. Historians still argue whether future dissertations will cite esports as the next conduit for culinary fusion. You remember the cedar smoke spirals from Section 13 and toy with a jam-dunked curd shard? Smoke memory mingles with berry sugar, and your mouth throws a surprise reunion party. Joke number 2 rises. If this trend continues, the first Michelin-starred dish on Mars will probably be freeze-dried Mars-smoked panna cotta with dehydrated sushi nori. Everyone laughs. Grandma, most of all, apparently. Mars is closer than the nearest winter pasture. Conversation slides into then and now comparisons. The student shows a drone video he shot this morning heard shot from above, horses swirling like iron shavings around a magnet. You whistle? The aerial spiral echoes the smoke figure eights blessed by shamans. Technology didn't erase patterns. It just gave them HD playback. Mid-chat, Grandpa emerges, phone in hand, cheeks rosy from 4G weather updates. He mutters that. Satellite forecasts trump potato peel divination, Section 12 forecast fiasco, but he still won't skip singing to snowberry Turag Crocs. Better overinsured, he winks. You nod, sipping more instant airag that tastes less instant the second time around. Mainstream fact number 2. UNESCO listed traditional knowledge of the Ger and associated customs as intangible cultural heritage in 2013, prompting a revival movement where young nomads live-stream yurt-building tutorials. That explains the GoPro perched on the stovepipe, silently gathering burl for a TikTok debut titled 10 Breakfast Hacks Your Ancestors Perfected First. Grandma ladles one final bowl of salty tea, sprinkles a pinch of cinnamon market, spice encore, and slides it your way. Heat meets Eric fizz still coating your palate, forging a weirdly satisfying hot-cold duet reminiscent of frozen Turag over porridge. Section 10 cameo. Joke number 3. You debit Steppe root beer float, and Grandpa snaps a photo for possible brand licensing. Night thickens. The solar panel's charge fades, battery lights dim to amber. Someone flips off the power entirely, and the ceiling reverts to its prehistoric star hatch. Through the smoke hole, you spot Orion's belt jangling like a warrior's buckle, a reminder that while thermoses gain double insulation, constellations haven't updated firmware in millennia. You lean back, feeling the thermos against your hip just as jerky once pressed there. Breakfast has traveled light years metaphorically, from raw mare froth tickling a wooden dipper to powdered probiotics sloshing in stainless steel. Yet the core equation, grass to horse to human to horizon, still solves for survival and belonging. Every single dawn dot, you raise the final sip toward the smoke hole, offer it to ancestors, Wi-Fi ghosts, and maybe the algorithm deciding tomorrow's search suggestions. Foam traces a crescent inside the cup tiny moon you've swallowed all night. Bells jingle outside as horses shift, and you realize dawn is only 6 hours away. Ready to recycle the menu once more, you pop the thermos lid shut, the faint hiss sealing modernity inside, and stretch beneath a camel wool blanket. Somewhere, beyond felt walls, lithium-ion and lactic acid dream shoulder to shoulder, and you drift with them, tasting centuries collapsing into a single, sweet sour breath. The gear quiets until even the wind seems to tiptoe, its earlier swagger softened, into a hush that brushes the felt like a lullaby written in feathers. Your eyelids loosen, heavy as saddlebags finally set down, and every inhale draws in the faintest traces of cedar smoke, cinnamon dust, and that lingering fizz of arak now, a memory more than a flavor. Outside, hoofbeats have settled into slow, contented shifts, each clop muffled by frost-napped ground. You imagine the horses breathing clouds that drift upward to join constellations, small puffs of white stitching the sky back together. The solar panel, dark now, gleams only with starlight, reminding you that even bright things rest out inside. The stove embers glow a muted orange, pulsing like a friendly lighthouse guiding thoughts toward calm waters. Each pulse seems to lengthen, your breaths stretching seconds into soft ribbons. With every exhale, shoulders slide lower, weight surrendering to the blanket's gentle gravity. Felt walls insulate more than heat. They muffle the world's edges. Distant worries, deadlines, traffic horns, unfinished emails can't find the door flap. Instead, your mind strolls the day's flavors in slow motion. Salty tea warmth, honeyed berry sparkle, dumpling steam. Sighing open, they fade one by one like lanterns gently dimmed so night can take its rightful place. Somewhere a reed flute pipes alone. Languid note, perhaps a herder serenading the moon, perhaps just wind flirting with hollow grass. The sound unravels the final knot of WAKEFUNE sis. You nestle deeper, heartbeat sinking to the ember's glow. Thoughts thin, stretching into dream threads where rivers hiss over hot stones and curd spirals never chip teeth. The steppe exhales, a steady, endless hush, and you float on it, weightless, timeless, already halfway to tomorrow.